Two ladies who lunch.
Yes.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I feel like my friends here at What You're Craving, my fam, has so much to learn from you. I mean, I have 100 things I want to ask, but why don't you explain to us like how you got to where you are being like this amazing helper and running this amazing program over in Minnesota. Cold in Minnesota. Is it cold in Minnesota? It's the summer. I just said I didn't live in, I wasn't in North Carolina because it's too hot in the summer, but it's not hot in the summer in Minnesota, is it?
No, it is. It's supposed to be 96 today with humidity.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
past my
we
threshold.
have kind of the center of the summer lands like this. And it's
okay.
But I'm going to say that we still appreciate it because it's so short.
Okay.
So we still, last night I went out for some fireworks.
I feel like that's
because
part
that's
of
what
your,
we do. We still go outside.
yeah, that's part of your vibe
it.
though, right? Like,
yeah,
you really are just appreciating things.
I really do appreciate it.
I know.
How I came to be here, last night I rode my motorcycle out, and I'm riding now. Again, I rode earlier in my life, and in the last 7 and almost 8 years, I've been in recovery from food addiction and comfortable in my skin and at a healthy body weight. And just last year, again, I decided to start riding a motorcycle, and I picked it back up now in recovery with this comfort in my skin. I can't stop smiling when I'm riding.
That's amazing.
Recovery from, for me, food and sugar addiction, from a lifetime of food and sugar addiction. It weaves recovery just as the addiction weaves itself through every area of your life. And for me, a lifetime of it. I don't remember a normal relationship with sugar or food, specifically sugar, which is what I chased, right? And as a little girl, you don't have a beat on what nutrition and healthy food is, but I know that I chased sugar, and then as my addiction progressed over my life, it was food overall. But as it weaves its way into your entire life and all the relationships and how you do anything, so does recovery. And last night it was, the moon was out, and the weather in Minnesota, when it is this warm at night, when it's dark, riding isn't cold. And so it's comfortable. And I mean, I honestly can't stop smiling.
I love
that. And to go from and having the experience of riding a motorcycle before when I wasn't there, it's just grace, and it's freedom, and it's peace and joy
and presence, right? Like presence.
And throughout the day, it's also some planning and some work and intention setting and goal setting and looking at it and honesty.
That's such a
about
good
what's
one.
Healthy.
I love that. But don't you think that when you were in your food addiction, that was work? I just found that to be, because I was working to figure out how I was going to get it, how I could maybe even, because I would be like hungover. So how I could maybe wake up late the next day, or how I could get out of this thing. I mean, it's all work, isn't it?
It was harder to be. It was much harder to be in the food and in the sugar and in the addiction.
It's hard to believe when you're in it though, right? It's people listening being like, good for you ladies. You really have it together. But first of all, well, Nancy, let's talk about what it used to be like. Because Nancy and I share a lot of things in common. One of them being we are both wounded healers. So we love what we do, but we are what we do. Right. So how did you figure this whole thing out?
Well, I came into sobriety from recovery from alcoholism at a young age. So I'm going to say that I've always had this sugar addiction. That was my first drug, right? Sugar and food. And then I had the period in my life, my younger life, when I had alcoholism as well with some drug addiction. And I, lucky enough, came into recovery from that at a young age, at 21. And felt really strongly and I believe had a lot of integrity with that recovery, not really understanding or knowing what you and I just talked about, that how hard it is to stay in that food addiction, or that I even have it, or what it is, or how to, we have a society that tells us it's willpower, and we tell ourselves it's willpower. And we do so much comparing with others, and it looks like other people are normal and I'm not. And that all those years of that. So I didn't know. And so I spent quite a number of years in sobriety with an active food addiction and sugar addiction.
Yeah.
And did end up in some 12-step rooms for that, but couldn't quite, again, understand because of not having the information. When I read your book and you talk about sugar, the craving for it, the obsession for it, the physiological response we have to it, also white flour in general for me.
Yeah, grain. I think it's grain flours.
Grains.
What I could do with a gluten-free pizza, nobody would want to watch that. Like, no, it's not a pretty sight. Me and like a gluten-free bread. No.
Or the crackers, the quinoa. There's some quinoa crackers, whatever has gone crackers. I had to, Nancy went crackers on those.
Nancy went crackers along with Mary. Well, just that biodiversity actually always really interests me, because I find those unappealing. But if you give me some ground up rice flour, I would have to leave the interview. I was just thinking, I literally was like, wow, that would be amazing to just have a gluten-free crust of a pizza. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I spent many years battling with food, but not really having the information or the understanding or the opportunity to detox off of those.
Interesting.
And learn, although we know so much, we know what healthy food is. I technically knew what I ought to be buying and eating and consuming and portion control, although I didn't.
Well, and so, but when you were struggling like that, because you were sober like in a recovery program. Did you feel? Yeah, totally. Did you?
And teaching it, also working as a treatment counselor.
Oh, I love this story. I love stories like this.
Working
Me too.
as a treatment counselor.
Hungover from food and alcohol, going to work as a therapist. It's a different kind of moral bottom, isn't it? But did you know, or did it feel to you like the sugar was an addiction? Like, could you parallel those, or did it just never occur to you that could be an addiction?
I could say it and I could see it, although I believe with food, there's so much information that says it's about monitoring it or eating mindfully. And I don't, for me, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
for many of us,
it's more of like an intuitive eating. Give yourself a treat every now and then.
You can eat anything in moderation.
Yeah, conceptually, it's a wonderful idea. Wouldn't that be lovely? Yeah,
it is. I always equate it to when I had my first son, I bought the What to Expect book about what to do, right?
Right.
And one of the recommendations it made was about if you were having trouble as a mother breastfeeding, relaxing enough to get into the breastfeeding process, to let your milk down. A half a glass of wine was a suggestion to relax. And I always knew back then, I was sober when I had my first son, that was probably a good suggestion for a lot of women.
Right.
Would benefit from that. I have friends that I know that would benefit from that suggestion of being able to sit down, let's relax into this process. Not for me. Same with mindful eating, right? I have friends around me that don't have the food addiction, the sugar addiction that I do, that mindful eating would never, how could that ever be a bad idea, right?
They could tap into their intuition. They can tap into their intuition and say, I want a little bit of ice cream. That really works for me. I don't know though.
Enjoy that ice cream.
I think food has become so addictive though, that it's really, I think it takes a very non-neurologically heightened person to be able to really stop when they're full, because food's so hopped up.
The processing, the processed food. And, so I was in that where even if I was trying to eat healthy, my food was still processed. And then try to control it, try to count out the number of crackers I'm eating and then count the points that go with those crackers or whatever it was that I was trying at the time.
Right.
You know, the prepackaged food that I would go pick up.
Right.
And essentially probably a healthy meal, although again, probably a healthy meal, but it's like that half glass of wine that as a recovering alcoholic young mom, it just doesn't work for me.
Right.
So I spent so much time there fighting with it, wrestling. And what happened is I was introduced to COR Retreat about a year before I actually went there. You know how a seed is planted.
Yeah.
And then we actively avoid, I guess, watering it or plant or putting it in the pot.
Nancy,
shall I say?
I love that analogy. I've never heard that. Yes,
yeah.
Someone puts a little idea in your head, and you run, and usually it's someone that saves your life, and you run for the hills.
Oh yeah, and I even remember when I met the facilitator at the time of the COR Retreat at a professional conference, and they had the booth, and I honestly had this, and I was there as a professional, a licensed addiction counselor professional. That was the conference, what it was about, and they had a booth, COR Retreat at a booth, and I met. And as I'm talking, I thought, I literally said, that's a really great thing you have going on there.
Good for you. Like, good
I
for
should
you
probably
guys.
get there. It's good for you. That's great. You should keep doing that.
Keep the good work up, COR Retreat. I'm going to go get some cookies. Thank you.
And that's, I'm sure that's exactly what I did. That's one of that's a conference in Minnesota. Yeah, that's a conference in Minnesota that takes place right around Halloween. So all of the booths hand out Halloween candy.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I had my gift bag full of it, stuffed full of it, along with some pens.
You're like eating your Three Musketeers, telling them what a great job they're doing, avoiding it. I know. It's so funny. We protect our substance pretty significantly, don't we?
Yeah. And so and then when I did make it to COR Retreat, I went in and I was, honestly, I remember sitting there day 2.5 and thinking, I needed treatment. I needed detox and treatment. That is really when it settled in, was when I finally got to COR Retreat, Molly, is when I came into full awareness. This is a primary illness in my life.
Wow.
This is primary. It isn't my job or my teenage sons who, we all know teenagers, or the unmanageability of a relationship, or how do I manage all of it, work-life balance. This isn't inner child, this isn't growing up thing, this isn't like past trauma. That all may be true. This food thing is a primary illness.
It's a substance. Yeah. How did you get brave enough to go? Like so you saw them at the conference and you were like, good to know ya professionally.
Do you know what I did? I asked a woman in my 12-step meeting, food meeting, Overeaters Anonymous, if I can say that. I don't know if that's okay.
You can say anything. Curse. You do you, babe. Just like as we're just having lunch.
So I asked a woman in that meeting, if she would like to go. I needed a partner. I needed someone, right? And I knew that she struggled in the way that I struggled. And so, because I watched her come and nothing was changing physically, but she was there and she was really cool, and she's an artist. I asked her if she would like to go, and she said, I'll go check into it. So I told her to go check into it. Maybe we'll go together. And the next time I saw her at a meeting, she had signed up and I hadn't.
Oh,
I didn't. She had actually signed up. And so now we'll do things for other people sometimes that we don't do for ourselves. I felt obligated. I can't drag her in and not. Right. So I quick signed up. And I know that I got one of the last spots that was available for that month.
Huh.
And so I went almost only because I had asked this gal at my meeting to go, and she actually signed up, and then I felt like I had to.
I love that story, because it always, just any way you can get in, right?
And the morning of, I definitely was getting ready, and it was the morning of, and I had to go to work first, and the program starts a little later in the afternoon, so I was going to try to work for a day. I hadn't really packed. It was the morning, and of course I'm living my chaos as I did always
Yes.
back then.
Mhm.
Because I'm hungover from the food, and of course I'm eating because I'm going into this retreat the next day. So I'm going to get
Yeah.
the Last
All the
Supper
food.
and the
Yeah.
Last Supper and
Yeah.
the Last Supper. And so of
All the
course
sheet
I'm
cake. All the sheet cake. I know.
physically all the cake, all the cake, all the whatever, right? All the pop, all the diet pop.
Yeah.
And so of course I'm a mess from all directions, from inside out, I'm a mess. And I'm packing and I'm thinking, why did I go and do this to myself now?
Mhm.
Why did I get myself into this shit now? Now I got to
I
go do
do.
this thing. Why did I get myself into this now? Why am I making it harder that I have to pack and go to this retreat? I'm going to miss a couple days of work. I'm going to be behind at work. That was my thought process going into COR Retreat. Why did I do this to myself to make it even harder than this?
Honestly,
Adding
like
this element.
I relate so profoundly to what you're saying that I almost wanted to throw up. I so get that. That reminds me so much of because it really addiction convinces you that it is the solution, not the problem. Right. And the other thing I was thinking when you're just like, do you ever hear that acronym for SLIP? Sobriety loses its priority.
Priority.
And it's like, that happens to me sometimes very minimally. I catch it so quickly, a little termite, never brings down the house. But it's like when my life gets more important than my recovery, I know that there's something really wrong. When I can't find the time to take care of the things that that give me the life I've been blessed with, right? Then I'm really in trouble.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So
So
then,
that's how I went in. And within a couple of days time, I think certainly having physical symptoms of detox from sugar and flour and the
yeah.
processed food and all the sweeteners and stuff that I was eating at the time, drinking, consuming, I is where it settled in. I I relaxed into the process enough to let the information in, or to at least get honest with myself enough to say, this is primary.
Mm.
This is the thing. And it was. I just wrapped up a COR retreat yesterday afternoon, and I had a circle with 12 people, and and largely I have this circle of people gathered, and we have all had years and years of our lives where most of what we worry about is food. What did I consume? What do I want to consume? What shouldn't I have consumed? What Feeling bad about what I've eaten, feeling
Yeah.
bad about my body and
Yeah.
my weight, diet, lose,
Mm.
gain,
Yeah. What am I
can't find
worth?
it.
Yeah. Right.
What am I worth? That's all wrapped up. It's
I
all
can't do it
twisted up in
until I'm
there.
a certain weight. Right.
Life will be better when
Oof. We'll see.
I get to the right weight. And but again, a circle of people gathered who have jobs that they're probably pretty good at, intelligent, certainly intelligent people who love their families and their children and their dogs and their life, that and this that exists all at the same time. That's the unmanageability. It's not like I haven't built a life. Like, even when I went to COR Retreat, I had a home that I loved, and 3 teenage sons, and family and friends, and a job that I really wanted to have integrity in. I will say, one of my moments of clarity was realizing I was going to lose my voice as an addictions counselor. That
Wow.
that that one of my clients could look across the room at me, and and the truth would be, they could say to me, I don't know that you can address addiction with me,
Wow.
because it appears that you
Are in
are
one.
killing yourself with
Right.
food.
Oh, wow.
None of my clients ever did. I don't know if they thought that they may, but had it was a mirror. You're right.
And
When we
like you
look at
knew
that
that they
mirror,
knew, so you couldn't do your best work.
no,
Like
I couldn't.
integrity's,
Yes.
once you get a slice of integrity, it's hard to live in anything other
Yep.
than it. It really
Mhm,
is. I really
mhm.
hear that. Because I know
And so
I was a
yeah,
good therapist active, but I'm a great therapist sober, right? I mean, that's just what's true.
yes. It changed the game in all ways, right? For me, with working. And yes, when I went back, when I got into recovery, that next layer of recovery for me, I became a better therapist, a better counselor, a better, I worked better with people. I let go. I don't even know how to explain it. So I knew that I was also losing my integrity with work, which was I think the one area of life that a lot of times we can rest our laurels in.
Yes, we call it rationalize. How many people do you know? But my work is fine.
Exactly.
My word, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I did it when I did a retro. It was good, not great,
Well, and that hindsight that continues to, I talked about it at COR this week. I said, this is like bad relationship. This is an unhealthy relationship. And today, the COR people that I had in front of me, or that I was working with in this circle over this past week, were real new. And there's a lot of information. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose at COR. There's so much. And I said, you're going to get out from this. It's one of those where you look back and you go, wow, it was really unhealthy, where you start to recognize bit by bit. But you can't do it when you're right in it, can you? Or it would mean total upheaval. And without support, you can't have that.
Well, I couldn't have that. It just is the truth. Amy, she's big in our community. Like, she had a refrigerator in her bedroom because her body didn't work, that she could go downstairs in the middle of the night to binge. And that was just what was normal. She didn't think it was abnormal until she got into recovery from the food. She wouldn't care me sharing that story. I hope, Amy, if not, love you. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, what do they say in AA? They say, the normal becomes abnormal. The abnormal becomes normal.
Our alcoholic life seems the only normal one.
It's like,
you can no longer differentiate the true from the false.
Yeah. It's like nothing is more true with the food. You're like, yeah, it's totally normal to go at 6 o'clock to the grocery store to get my binge for the night. And it's totally normal to wait until 2 o'clock to start eating again because I'm so sick, and then order from the diner and promise myself, it all just becomes, and I actually think as a big time night eater, the one that becomes the greatest rational lie is the night eating. Because even in 13 years, it's gotten me a couple of times, and it gets me in 2 days flat, that it is the thing. You have to eat tonight. Yeah. And it's like, and then I'm out of it. And I'm like, I cannot believe how quickly that thing seduced me. Yeah. Right.
Or waking up to eat. I say at COR, we're not babies. We don't need 3 a.m. feedings. We're not growing. We are probably growing. Yeah. But we're not spiritually. We're really not. Yeah. Exactly. We might be growing inside. But I think about that, right? Somehow believing that at 3 a.m. I'm hungry for the food that I'm eating. I would wake up and all the things that the amounts, the food that we eat, the idea that I really believed that I wasn't eating in the quantities that I was eating, or how processed the food was, or how much protein I didn't eat. I would go on these where I would take out sugar. I did have I'm going to say a 6-month where I took out obvious sugars, which I didn't know. I did the best I could. So I took out the obvious, the cakes, the cookies, the things. Cookies, cake. I think I looked at some of the foods that I ate about the ingredients, but I didn't. I kept sweeteners, honey, agave, diet pop, white flour.
Yeah. I was literally thinking I would just eat angel hair pasta for my life with butter on it.
So I like to say, and I just talked about it at COR, I went out on this last terror trying hard not to eat sugar. So I would tell myself I wasn't eating sugar. And I literally believed a big part of this lie. And I would come home from work and I would prepare a mountain of corn chips with melted cheese. Literally a mountain, right?
I do, and I would have had such fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my poor boys going by trying to nab one. Make your own mountain. Make your own pile. This is mom's pile. Think about that. It goes I feel like we're supposed to have some sort of primitive good instinct that says feed your children.
No. But not when it's corn chips with melted cheese, Nancy. Come on.
Not when it's chips and cheese. Not when it's nachos. No. And I believed that lie that was, and that's when you move away from that and you start to look back, it's like looking back at an unhealthy relationship. And when you're safe,
Yeah.
And I think that what COR Retreat gave me, as big of a change as it was going to be, and as scared as I might have been and uncertain as to whether this one was going to work or if I could ever get to the health that I saw in some of the speakers that came in to talk, as much as I could not understand that, I was safe at COR.
Yeah.
To at least start something different. And that's what I really love. I think helping provide, hopefully that I just provided that circle with some safety to talk about it. And then now they'll still have lots of days to discover and look back and really truly see the powerlessness that they had over food and the unmanageability that goes with it, step one stuff.
Right.
But that's what COR gave me, was that first initial, very honest glimpse at this is the problem. This is primary.
Yeah. I love that idea. Like you're saying, like even chemically, like this is like we can, and like I believe in so much about trauma and emotion regulation and all that, but like this primarily, I can't even talk about my trauma if I'm high on food all the time.
No, and I have a good therapist. I've had periods where I've been doing that, and now I've had just consistently, I just have decided every couple of weeks that's the right thing. So there's always other stuff, but if I'm
high,
it's for all the years that I worked with addiction treatment, there's only so much therapy I can do with someone if they're using heroin every day.
Right.
And let's all be honest, there's not a lot of therapy you can do if someone's using heroin every day. We know that. I don't know that there's really many people that would question that.
Because your brain isn't available for it.
You're more preoccupied with, my therapist, she's lovely. She has, and when I go into her office and I've talked to her, I'm sure I won't. Anyway, she has a candy dish and she puts out a roll of chocolates. And my guess is what she uses those for is mindfulness for people who, again, here's the people who that's a good exercise, mindfulness to do the, and so I laugh with her because when I see it, when it's there, I say, no, I got to tell you, if I was still in the sugar, this is what would happen to me if I came into this session. I've got 50 therapeutic minutes. I said, so I'd pop one in my mouth. And there's 4 left on the tray because she only puts out like 5. It's not a proper candy dish for sakes, right?
Like, I would put all 5 in my mouth.
Let's be honest. It's 5 in a row on a little plate. It's not even a bowl, right? Which is what I would have if I was going to have a candy dish in my office.
Yeah.
And I did at one point have that candy dish in my office working in a treatment center. And so I tell her, I said, if I put one of those in my mouth, I'm now going to be kind of in the session with you, but I'm mostly going to be thinking about number 2 candy. And I think it's cool to eat 2. That would probably be okay. But when should I eat it? And I'm going to eat it. And then at some point that one's going to go in. And now I'm really going to want the 3rd but I don't know if I shouldn't probably.
Right. She's going to judge me. And then is it too much? I was that exact way with wine, by the way. I mean, it's so parallel. It's so true. So can I have so many questions. So when you left COR, because I think the hardest thing to do is with everything is to leave the nest of intensive help and then go into life. Right. So how was that for you? And how do you, and now you've seen, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people do it. Like, because that's where I think really with food, it is a lot different than substance. Like, not to say it's easy to not drink or use. I mean, it certainly isn't, but you got to go home and like go food shopping. And
we have to go to the grocery store.
We have to go with our family and we have to go to weddings and we have to like go do all these things and navigate in such a different way than just saying, I don't drink, So what did you find for yourself and what do you find for others?
I remember, and it's one of those things that it's as corny as it sounds. I really remember the facilitator when I went through COR focusing on one meal at a time. Can you do the next meal? And then can you do tomorrow what you did today? And so I don't
really think that sounds cheesy. I actually think that sounds perfect.
One day at a time.
When you're like, can you just do lunch? Because I'm like that. I'm like, what about in September when I have to go to this trip? And it's like, just eat your lunch, Molly.
What's the next lunch?
Eat your
And,
lunch, Molly.
you know, I obviously I kind of joke around at COR and mostly say, you know, we live in America and there's a grocery store within arm's length for most of us. Honestly, we're really rich and lucky that way, that we have food available. The people I see at COR do, you know, and I can't
we have
speak
like
for everybody,
Uber
but the people that I
Eats,
meet.
right? If you have means,
And so we
yes.
have that available. So what's the next meal going to be? And I also remember when I left COR, I certainly leaned into the support of 12-step meetings and the daily writing and reading and things like that. But I also kept my food simple.
I love that.
I didn't try to get super creative with recipes, and I found protein that tasted good because I still eat a real simple meal. I eat a very simple food plan. I need to find protein that tastes good to me, that works, and some starch and vegetables, whatever vegetables I prefer, together in the right combination, in the right amount, and some healthy fat.
Love this. So
and
simplicity.
Dairy. I also do dairy. Simplicity. I kept it simple. And, you know, it's one of those things, Molly, where you look back and you think, how was that? I don't even know how I did that. But
no. I'm going to tell you, you're actually, it's so funny. We're having such different experiences of what I'm like, this is so genius. I actually think you are giving people a roadmap right now, and I couldn't be more grateful. The first thing you're saying is simplicity. You beautifully grazed over the second one, which is that you jumped right in and you got a ton of support. I'm sure you say this because all the best of us say it, but it's like your recovery needs to be as big as your addiction. Like I say, your solution needs to be as big as your problem. And I think that's actually where people, and by the way, me included, even 13 years in, I found myself I had COVID for 6 months. I found myself like so far away from my food recovery because I do it for a living or whatever, that I had to completely reevaluate that. So
recommit.
Yeah, which is what a gift of life, right? Like nothing was lost. I just had to go and like, again, sobriety lost its priority, you know, and I had to go get the puzzle pieces and the building blocks and just put them in a different order. And
put them back
actually, a lot of what you're saying, I had to ask for help. I had to put the building blocks. I had to simplify the food. It's actually, I mean, I love, you know, we're good friends. It's like, you're actually saying exactly what it is. Do you find, this is always my question to you, but what do you find are the characteristics of people who do well, who leave an intensive treatment center and find solution? I always think it's support. I think it's people who unabashedly get help and put this as the primary thing. What do you see?
Support is key, as is honesty and humility.
Ooh, can we like unpack those two words? Because they mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
I mean, I think honesty is to stay every day in that truth that this really is important. I'm treating a primary illness here, and it needs to be at the top of my priority list. And so I do need to make some plans, and I do need to have the right food available. And I don't get to feel sorry for I can't, staying out of self-pity, I think, or staying out of looking at the world the way, you know, they talk about in the big book, they talk about the drinks that they see others taking with impunity.
Yeah.
And so, and I know that has to do with working with people with chronic alcoholism who are still clinging to the idea, why does he get to drink and I can't?
Yeah. Like why is not a spiritual question. I can promise you that.
Right.
You'll die on why, you know,
because you're dying. You're dying.
Well, you'll die on why, you know what I mean? Like you sit
Exactly.
and try to get to the bottom of it. You'll be dead and you're missing life, by the way, like huge.
There you go. So I think that people that right there, you kind of verbalized it for me, the people that stay out of the why.
Oof.
And just, it's the truth for me. The truth for me is it was killing me. I wasn't living my best life, and this is really important. So I think the support and that willingness,
but honest
to
support.
day,
I love what you're saying. Yeah,
and
but being
honest
in your support.
To not panic, to keep your wits about you. You know, to really truly keep your wits about you. That that, and codependency caretaking. What are people going to think of me if I don't eat their food? What are people going to think of me if they see me bringing my own food, say to a wedding? You know, my cousin's wedding I went to, I brought a little cooler full of just a cooler full of food. And I looked to see what they had. It wasn't going to work. I'm at a table, I suppose 8 or 10 are set up at one of those round bank, tables with the place settings. And I got my food out, and maybe 1 or 2 people at the table mentioned it. And I was able to neutralize it because I kept my wits about it.
Mm.
And I just said, this is just what works best for me. And then I asked them a question about their daughter. How's your
Right.
daughter doing? Is she a senior now? Is she in any sports?
Can
So our
we
ability,
park in this
caretaking and
spot?
codependency.
Yeah, I want to
Yes.
park in this spot for a second. Can we move the car in here? Because I think this is a great, I actually think you have such a knowledge base about this. Can you just talk, just talk for a while about, how do you manage family members that aren't supportive of your recovery? How do you manage when you're at dinner and somebody says you're not eating bread? Like, are you ever going to eat bread again? Like when people really push you to that, because I know you have wonderful experience with that.
And what I teach at COR is always take a breath first. Before we react, take a breath so that you respond rather than react in an emotional way to that. And I say the caretaking is the idea that you have to give them some really involved answer.
Mm.
And you don't. The truth is always really simple. I'm not doing that right now. It doesn't work for me. Like me at the wedding, I'm like, this is what works best for me.
Right.
I don't heave a sigh as I take my food out and put it all over the plate. And I can't eat what you guys are eating because I've got an addiction to sugar and there's nothing here that I can eat. Right. There's a self-pity, the idea that there's nothing at this wedding that works for me, staying out of that and just being, I think, genuine and humble about this, that this is going to require me at times to have to explain it to somebody, or somebody is going to make a comment about what I'm eating or not eating. And that's okay. It's not personal. It doesn't need to be. I learned that when I started to put boundaries around my food, I also was able to have boundaries in those situations with my reactions or responses to that too. You neutralize it.
Do you think that is integrity also? I mean, I think integrity begets integrity. I think I know this to be true. Like, did you have family members? I had friends that were like, you're never eating pizza again, and I was like, I'm about to die. So like, let me go deal with that. And then we can talk about pizza when I'm done. I don't actually know how that came out of my mouth at the time because I didn't have integrity or strength or self-love. That was a very graceful, that just came out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. But how did you manage like people close to you who weren't supportive?
I have, and anybody that's gone through COR will be able to repeat this statement, and a lot of them do, with my mom. My mom, who loves me, has loved me always. Even I was a chubby little girl. She, of all the people in my life that watched and worried about my addiction to food and sugar, my mom. And I was about 6 months into abstinence, and I was losing weight pretty quickly and really pretty good and happy about what was happening with my recovery. And my mom said to me, well, Nancy, do you really think you're never going to eat another piece of cake again? Don't you think that's a little extreme? Now, I think any of us that have family relationships, mom things, you could launch, there's so much that could happen.
Yeah.
Next from me emotionally.
Yes.
And
yes, there's a variety.
Do you have any idea how hard I'm working? You don't understand. And because I had strong support and I was doing daily work in a program, I was able to take a deep breath. And the next thing I said to my mom is, Mom, I've had enough cake.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Had enough cake. And then I didn't need to say more, because the truth is so simple. Mm. And that's the truth, is I've had enough cake. And so when someone asks me a question about, well, don't you think that now you could eat a little bit of that? For me, the truth for me is I've had enough. Yeah. And there's also the truth that they can ask that question without me needing to get defensive. It's not, sometimes they're just asking. I do also laugh a little bit at myself about karmically. Karma would tell me that I am I do not have the luxury to get offended by a food pusher.
Because you're the
I'm a
biggest
food
food
pusher.
I love that.
I
Oh
spent
my
a
God.
lifetime obsessing about what you were eating
Oh,
and what you
Nancy.
had that I didn't have. And my sister got more French fries than me. And do you have candy left? And I brought this food. You should eat this food. I baked these for you. I started, I officially started baking for staff meeting every Thursday as if this was a real thing.
As if your job
was,
depended upon it.
Oh, I mean, and at times it stressed me out. I have to bake now for staff meeting when nobody had asked me to,
Yeah,
so
I
karmically,
know.
I'm a food pusher. And so if I do have someone who pushes in a little bit on me with food, as long as I stay honest and humble, I don't get to take that too personally. I just get to take a deep breath and be like, that's so, not
And I love what
today.
you're saying
Doesn't
too,
work
which
for
is
me.
about like, if your objective is to, just say your truth and not be so concerned about the other person's reaction, you're in pretty good shape, right? It's like to thine own self be true. It's like, here's my truth. I am not doing this right now.
Mhm.
I've always found that the only times people bug me too much about food or alcohol are people who have problems with food and alcohol. That's been my
Typically,
experience. Yeah.
yes. And then wouldn't we agree that if it's someone that's one of me, that the best thing I can do is be humble and simple
compassionate and
and
compassionate. Yeah,
compassionate,
that's right.
and not launch into an explanation or
A
not get
defense,
holier than
right?
thou or healthier than thou or
Ooh. Healthier than thou, Nancy. Come
healthier
on,
than
it's
thou.
one gem after the next on this podcast. Healthier
I
than
don't,
thou.
to just simply say, I've had enough cake.
Yeah.
For me, and the rest will, if I'm then in a genuine relationship with you, like I think about that cousin's wedding. There were cousins there that could benefit from this, and one of them has now gotten into recovery.
That's
and
beautiful.
I can tell you that at that same wedding, she could hardly, it was painful for her to look at me because she could not picture that she could ever accomplish what I had, because her and I grew up next to each other with the same thing. We were two little girls next to each other, both with sugar addiction.
I just also think
stay humble.
Someone who can't tolerate you saying, this is what's working for me right now. That's about them straight. That's not, you don't need to go into, convincing that person that officially that's the other pure person's experience of your experience. Because
there's caretaking codependency is our fear of what that other person's reaction or response might be.
That's like our second podcast. I mean, we could just do a podcast on a podcast.
That worrying about what people will think or say, or if I don't eat their food or how offensive it would be or what.
Right. You're looking to cure them. You're looking to control them, their reactions. Like we're so obsessed with making sure that other people like us that we don't worry about
be true.
if we like us. Okay. Exactly. Here's another question.
Exactly.
Can you, like, maybe not today, like maybe in the first year of recovery, because you keep on saying this, and I want to know, and I'm sure everybody wants to know, when you said like you had a daily practice, like you did a bunch of things daily. What did you do? Take us through.
I certainly did some reading, a daily reading. There was books that are published by Overeaters Anonymous that have short stories. I kept one of those books at my desk at lunch.
Oh, that you do it at lunch?
I didn't at the time I worked in a place that didn't have like a lunchroom. So when I had my lunch at my desk, I would shut my computer down and I would read a couple of those at lunch. So I stayed in literature that way. I certainly did daily writing. I was sponsored by a woman who wanted me to write certain things down each day. And I did that.
Could I ask what she wanted you to write? You don't have to.
She wanted to know if I was abstinent, what I was grateful for. And then she had some assignments for step work at the time.
Oh, wow. So every day you wrote a gratitude list. Wow. Do you still do that?
Absolutely vital. I do. I actually do. It's vital to me in my life to maintain that. We're human. I'm so human. I'm going to fall into self-pity fairly easily.
I fall
into some comparison. Exactly. Exactly.
I was just telling my best friend that, because she has a kid that, sometimes struggles a lot, and she's not like that. And I said, I just want you to know, yesterday I woke up and I live this beautiful life. I said, I woke up thinking, and I was with my best friends from college all weekend. And I woke up thinking everybody's a better life than me. And I said, that's how I woke up. And I was so angry at everybody. We'd had like the best night. I was so angry at everybody. And then she's like, what did you do? I said, I got up, I meditated, I took the dog to the beach. I was watching the dog on the beach and I finally got it. Like I was fine.
And
I
it-
was taken
yeah.
care of. It just takes a minute. I don't take offense to that. I wake up completely hating life in sort of a dark addiction. I just know that I got some scrubbing to do when I wake up in the morning. I don't take it offensively. That's how I'm made.
Yeah. And letting yourself be human that way. And sometimes having some levity about it, certainly being able to laugh at ourselves a little bit about it.
Yeah.
With comparison, I think of that I know that at the time I consciously stayed out of some social media and things like that in order to not compare as much, because when I had gone into COR, from my perspective, everybody was living a better life than me in terms of vacations and partnerships and relationships and all that. And so I did that. I also knew each day what I was going to eat. I certainly knew what I wasn't going to eat.
You planned your food to do that. I still do
but
that.
I knew, and I didn't plan it meticulously. I never have done the highly structured where I'm going to report every single thing that's going in my mouth to you.
Right.
But I did know that I was going to have the right protein and the right starch and the right vegetable and fat for my lunch and my dinner, and what I was going to have for snacks. And I had that available. And if I didn't, I knew how to get it. And
by the way,
present and
I do that in some version 13 years later. I really do. I was a little off the beam, but it's like, it is the safest feeling to me.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, can I also say, I don't know when we all got so brainwashed to think that everything should be easy and convenient.
Correct.
Like, I honestly, like, things that are worth it are not convenient. Children, recovery, dogs, love, jobs,
exercise. Keeping our bodies healthy.
Yeah. Yes. Usually things worth loving and doing are not convenient. And we have no skin to tolerate inconvenience or hard work or patience. And I think Mel needs to really work on that, which is why meditation, I think, is wonderful.
Well, and especially when I had gotten to the point that I was at with my food addiction, when I got to COR, I had no tolerance for doing any work around food. I remember in my first year of abstinence, recognizing how it was really kind of nice to prepare some fresh food or to make food again, rather than just the processed stuff. That I could actually be in my kitchen and be touching and feeling food that was going to matter to me, that was helping my body be healthy. And again, if you'd asked me if that's how I would have on my way into COR, and probably the first 36 hours at COR, I wouldn't have believed that I'd ever say something like that, because I knew how to bake cookies. I make cookies all the time. I'm in my kitchen all the time baking cookies.
But I think if we're talking addiction model, like, it's how the addiction keeps you in, right? It says, this is too hard. This is too inconvenient. The detox is going to be too bad. You're never going to be able to go to the wedding. Like, and the other thing I want to say to everybody listening is, everybody's recovery doesn't look the same for everybody, because I mean, you and I have similar amount of time off sugar and flour. Like, I don't think I would bring a cooler. Sometimes I might just play a little looser. That's okay. You're okay. I'm okay. Like, it's just, it's so important for us to really find our own space, and that neither one of us is leaving this interview and going to go just like have some Doritos or have some cupcakes or go eat some. We have a lot of similarities in our recovery, and yet there are some divergences that we have, of which I had to figure out and you had to figure out on our own.
And which is a process over time that can change.
That's right.
And slip and get recommitted to. And yes,
I mean, I think that's the most important thing.
Journey.
Yeah. And I love this thing you just said: slip, come back, evolve, grow. But that is inconvenient. Like, right. Like, that kind of attention, if you think that that's just like an easy process, like, of course that's not. And it shouldn't be. Like, this is your mind, body, spirit. Like, this is literally the most important thing. I'm so grateful to know you. I mean, I
Thank
really
you.
am. I think I'm probably gonna have you on the podcast again. We didn't even get to any of my questions. I want to say I was shopping before this thinking that I know we aren't going to even scratch the surface. That's how we always feel when we have conversations, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, the time flies.
It's
And it, because
incredible.
it just kind of unfolds as it needs to.
May all of
And
your
I always
friendships be
hope the
like this.
listeners, yeah, I always hope the listeners hear something that you and I both are from the place of wanting anybody that's listening to this to move closer to self-care, that is
Oh,
recovery.
yes.
You know,
Yes.
that I hope that what I do is make it look like it's possible.
Mm.
And that you're
Listen.
invited in.
Oh, it's for all of you. Come join us wherever you
Yeah,
are.
that you
Come
can
join us. Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, thanks for being my friend. Thanks for coming on What You're Craving. You're so wonderful. I love
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. See you.